Remarkable people overcoming remarkable challenges with resilience, dedication, community, and grit. Listen as they share their stories of overcoming adversity. Open your eyes to what is genuinely possible for all of us. Authentic Adversity with host Chris Howe.
Welcome back to another episode of the Authentic Adversity podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Today, I'm sitting down with a friend who has a remarkable story. He's a very inspiring, a motivating person. I've listened to a lot of his interviews, and we've been kind of back and forth on social media. And I have a great deal of respect for this man. And I want to welcome Brian James.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been really looking forward to this one. I interviewed your buddy Matt a couple weeks ago, and you and I had already been talking. And he said, after we did the interview, he's like, "You got to link up with my buddy Brian." And I was like, "Dude, I'm already on it. We're already working on it." So I was really happy to have connected with you and to get to know your story. And it really is quite awe-inspiring. And, the more I learn about you, the more impressed I am, and the more hope I have for all of us out there, and especially us in recovery. Your story is very unique. It's very powerful. And I think it's a story the world needs to hear. And, I'm just really grateful for you to be here sharing today.
I mean, I really appreciate it. It's hard to even accept that, but I definitely appreciate it. And I do work hard to try to be worthy of those kind of compliments. So thank you.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, you deserve every one of them. And, to kick it off, I like to usually start, early life, what it was like for you, what the environment growing up was for you, where you grew up and sort of how you grew up. So you want to take it from there?
Yeah. So, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, kind of all over the place. My mother and father both struggled with drug addiction, with heroin being their drug of choice.
Okay.
My father very soon was gone out of the picture. I really didn't have any contact with him since a young age. And, he was in his active addiction. And so was my mom.
Right.
Like any family, I know there's millions of families like across the world that, have been touched by addiction.
Right.
It's an unstable lifestyle. It's a lifestyle riddled with like anxiety, fears, all that. Like I felt probably every type of emotion that there possibly could be growing up. Ultimately at the age of 8 years old, with my father out the picture and my mother like in the throes of her addiction, really struggling, was unable to care for me, my grandparents adopted me at that point. That was 1984.
Okay. So moving in with them was obviously quite a different dynamic, and did a lot change for you at that point?
I would say externally things changed because they lived in a nice neighborhood. My grandfather worked in Universal Studios.
Okay.
So I didn't want for anything. They took the best care of me and showed me so much love. But like it was a big jump. Like you have an 8-9-year-old kid who's just like full of all this chaos inside,
right.
And they're a little bit older at that point. There's a huge generational gap. These are my grandparents getting ready to retire and travel. And now they're stuck with this little Tasmanian devil,
Yeah, for sure. I imagine that would be, as you said, externally, the circumstances change, but internally and emotionally, it probably got a lot more confusing too, because, you're already, as you said, riddled with anxiety and depression and confusion, and now you're taken out of the place that and put in I would assume a more stable environment, but internally you're still struggling the same way. So that must have been extra confusing at that age in life too, to go through that change.
Yeah, and it proves the point that like moving doesn't change your circumstances.
Yes.
Like everything starts like in between your ears. That's where it all starts, because like I said, externally, like I immediately was put into private schools. Like I was in karate, I was in basketball. Like, Christmases were amazing.
Right.
But, like I said, at the end of the day, I was at war with myself inside of my head.
I kind of grew up the same way. Like I was cared for by other people. at a certain point in my life, and I turned to some really harmful things to kind of cope, I guess, or to get some sort of emotion, because I was very much like emotionless for a long time, and I would hurt myself, or I would turn to drugs, alcohol, these sort of things, or or people.
Yeah.
And I was taking my pain out in external ways like that. Did you turn to anything like that at that point in life?
At a young age, I would just say I've always been like a daredevil.
Yeah.
Before the age of like 16, I think I broke something like 14 bones.
Oh, wow.
Like
Okay.
skateboarding, like I was that one kid who would like ride the bike off the roof,
Right.
always like seeking the attention of people.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe like unconsciously, those were things, that fights began starting happening in school.
Okay.
I hadn't started like using drugs and alcohol. That came, a few years later.
Right. Right.
But just it was basically at those early ages, like acting out, just being a troublemaker, just being like an all around pain in the ass to everybody.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Just attention. It didn't matter what kind of attention, whether it was good, bad, or whatever. It was attention, and that's what I was desperately seeking attention. And truly, attention was, it was love that I was seeking. But I'd search for it through attention, through acting out, or getting into a fight, or doing something that would get somebody's attention to say, hang on a second, you exist, you're important enough.
Yeah. And even if it's on myself, like exploration and stuff, I've come to learn, like when they said like class clown or troublemaker, like I own those titles. Like I stepped into them, and I met the expectations of that.
Right.
I learned that later in life, where I remember it started as he's a chatterbox, he's talkative in class, he's this, and then it moved to, so many things, up to the worst of the worst, a monster. And like anytime a title would be placed on me, rather than standing, I would step into it and own it.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So as you moved through, through school, then, at what point were you, how old were you at this point? Like, this is like before high school, around high school?
Yeah, like I'm 10, 12, like getting, I ended up getting kicked out of the private school system.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, and basketball was always like a saving grace for me. Like I was given a God-given gift to play basketball. Right. And it's a trip, I came home too, and my grandmother still has all my trophies like
oh wow,
on this little shelf. Like it was really emotional, like coming home, seeing that right there. Like
that's amazing.
But like, basketball, it came natural. I was good at it. I got, all the accolades and all that. But as soon as the game was over, I'm miserable again. Like I'm just that person who's at war with himself in his head. Yeah. He's back. So ultimately I got kicked out of a private school system. Okay. This is when I went to public school.
All right.
And that was the summer. I don't remember the years. I want to say 89, 90, something like that. But that was the summer where like the game changed. Like, I was always like my first instincts was never like anger and violence. Like I nurtured and developed these things because by nature, I'm a compassionate person. Like I'm a good person who wants to help people. Like that's who I am fundamentally. But I started like I was nurturing all these negative thoughts about, your parents don't want you and your grandparents don't want you. And ugly dialogue going on inside of my head. And I'm doing this alone, like in isolation a lot, As we know, like I'm emulating addict behavior at that point, Actually, the drugs.
And with no outlet for that. I mean, like you had basketball as your little escape, but it was temporary, right? So, and I would imagine, and I mean, we're around the same age, so I can probably gather that it wasn't a real safe time for men to be, or boys to be talking about their feelings, their emotions, about like what's actually going on inside my head. We're all just flexing, trying to be something that we're not, I think, at that point, right?
Yeah.
And
this is the 90s, like you said. It's a lot different, like a lot different at that time. Like there's no talking. You just you rub mud on it and you get back in there. There's no fears. There's none of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think about that often, and I've got a 9-year-old at home right now, and I'm grateful that he's coming up in a world that's a little more emotionally in touch. I mean, albeit, I mean, they're also so overly dependent on the internet and their phones and all this kind of thing, but they are at least getting the message that it's okay to open up, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to be vulnerable and to talk about what's actually going on, where we didn't have that modeled for us anywhere in our childhoods, right? Like we were told to suck it up, be a man, like all these cliche sort of sayings that we carry that stuff through the rest of our lives, and they're really quite harmful to us, especially when we're troubled kids.
And see, and being raised by my grandparents, I was raised by a grandfather who came up in the 40s and 50s. So
right, yeah,
we're talking like the toughest generation. Like, he would wake up for work at 4 a.m. and come home at 10, and like, I provide for my family. I do this. Like, I maybe saw him cry maybe once in my life.
Right. Yeah.
Really strong man.
Yeah. It's great to be brought up with, somebody with that kind of work ethic and strength, but there's a lack of emotional availability there that, especially that generation. I mean, my grandfather, for me, he was kind of a role model and somebody I really looked up to. And, now that I look back at it, I mean, he was a cold motherfucker. Like he was like, he was a tough guy, but I've never seen him open up about anything. It was like, he taught me how to throw my first punch. He taught me how to drink. He taught me, all sorts of things that were, that's in his world, that was being a man, know, and he taught me the things that he knew, and it's not his fault because it's a generational thing. That's the way he grew up. So
that's all I know.
This episode of the Authentic Adversity podcast is brought to you and sponsored by Another Road Drug and Alcohol Treatment Center. Another Road offers a client-centered recovery program tailored to every individual's circumstances. Their focus is to create a supportive, healing environment rather than a rigid, rule-based institution. Their dedicated commitment upholds the individual values respecting each person's desire for recovery. Another Road understands that every individual requires a unique and focused approach to their recovery. Certain modalities of treatment are introduced along with the tools necessary for each client. Located in a rural setting, their addiction treatment center for all genders provides the perfect setting for a transformative recovery experience and sense of belonging. The private residential treatment facility offers an unparalleled program with counselors that have in-depth knowledge based on varying years of experience in addiction. Another Road utilizes unique, individual-focused plans for recovery that address the complexities of drug addiction, alcoholism, and prescription medication misuse. They have a 65% success rate when clients follow their program. I know many people who have completed this program, and they have absolutely rave reviews. To learn more, visit anotherroad.ca. To get back to your story, man, so that's, like going into high school, that age, like after you're in the public school system, what do you like at that point? Are you getting into shit a little bit then, a little more? Are you meeting kids that were more like you?
Yeah, that's definitely, like I was getting into like fights and stuff like that. But I would say at that time, I was more like a student of the student of the game who I wanted to be. I had this idea of this person that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so I'm just watching, I'm trying to get close to these people, affiliate myself with these people.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching, but like I'm definitely progressing, like the crimes I'm committing. Shortly after I got to public school system, I was arrested for like my first crime, trying to impress people.
Yeah.
So definitely the progress, and it happened so quick. Like I have this picture of me and my grandparents in New Zealand, and I have a picture of me and my grandparents 8 years later. And when I look at, like, I'm in prison 8 years later. So it happened so quick. Like, from the second, like, and I was fully ready to immerse, because I talked about basketball. Like once I'm playing basketball and then I stop, I'm back to this person. Mm-hmm. Now, the gang thing and all that, it was a full-time job. It's a phrase I heard. It's 24/7, 7 days a week. So this is exactly what I'm looking for in life, like to be somebody else completely all the time. So I kind of jumped headfirst into that.
Yeah, I can see that. That becomes your structure, your escape, and now that's something that you can, as you said, 24/7. You're that person that you get to be. You get to be part of something 24/7. You get to be among a group of people that that are probably all trying to gain acceptance from each other, but like there's a cohesiveness there that
Yeah.
I think, like that sort of, that's quite attractive to somebody who's going through hell in their own mind and
I thought it was the
searching
answer.
for
Yeah, I thought
something.
it was the answer
Yeah.
to all my problems. And that cohesiveness, like I learned a word in my studies as, I'm doing this self-help therapy and I'm growing. It was called trauma bonded.
Yes.
So we were a bunch, like the people that we came together all our backgrounds were similar. We were all
Yeah.
seeking the same thing and we fed it to each other. Unfortunately, like it was negative in every aspect,
Right. I mean, that happens more than, I think, people realize that
Yeah.
it is trauma bonding. And, I've had that with a lot of people as well. And, I've, uh, bonding through something traumatic that's happened, or our paths are very much in line with each other's. And, other than that, I realized, once I got clean, once I got out of that lifestyle, I realized I've got nothing in common with these people except
Yeah.
for the shit that we were going through emotionally from
Yeah.
childhood. And that was
Yeah.
what was keeping us together. That was why I couldn't get out of the lifestyle I was living. And yeah, it's quite powerful.
Looking back on it now too, like it just like that life makes zero sense to me. Like I don't fit in
Yeah.
any kind of way. And it's
Yeah.
funny too, because I remember while I was still incarcerated, I was talking to one of my friends and he goes like, I'm getting close to getting out. So any kind of write up would, I'm staying in and all that. He goes, what would you do? Like if something jumped off or you had to do, and I says, man, like, it's funny. I've done all these internal changes. Like I don't have what it requires
Yeah.
like anymore. I just don't have, like, it's not in me to do these things anymore.
Yeah.
It's not who I am.
Well, and that's really reflective of the internal work that you've done up, up to that point, like to change your life and like actually heal those traumas of the past and that sort of thing. The hard work that you did, in recovery and in changing your life. That, yeah, I don't even have it in me. That I don't have a bone in me that wants to take part in anything. I
Yeah.
don't got what it takes anymore, because really, I think, you've come into your true self and your true, the person you're meant to be.
Exactly.
I think, returning to that person that you're meant to be, right?
Yeah. And,
And
and
that's not easy.
it's still a process. Like
Yeah.
I always call it like my second thought, because what I've come to learn about myself is like an addict. My initial thought is always to cope.
Yeah.
Like the majority of my life, I was a criminal. I was not the greatest person. Like
Right.
who I am today, I haven't been that person that long. Like I'm still growing in that person. So
Yeah.
my initial instinct still to, like, say a situation arises, to like impose my will or use anger or aggression or something,
Right.
violence, because that's what had always worked for me. But I get to my second thought fast now. My second thought is
Yeah.
right on my heels. Like, how is that going to work out for you? How is this going to help you reach your goals? Is this who you want to be today? And
Right.
I'm able to immediately like check myself. But it's crazy. It's the initial thought. And the second thought comes only as a result of like continued therapy,
Yeah.
continually like going to my meetings, working my steps, like being focused on my recovery. The
Yeah.
second I put that down and I'm not actively involved in that, the second thought starts to come a little bit slower.
For sure. For sure. I think it's, I mean, we talked a little bit of it, about it off air, right? Like, it's the awareness that we
Sure.
gain in recovery, and the work that we're doing in the therapy that we continue to do. Um, that gets, yeah. 'Cause our knee jerk reaction says like, do what you've done most of your life. And then that second thought is what we've come to learn about ourselves. That, like, our knee jerk reaction lands us the same place we've always landed, and it's not where we want to be, right? Like,
Wow.
and so having that second thought and that forethought to say, I know where this reaction takes me, and I'm choosing. I've got seconds to choose here. Which direction do I want to go? And to continually work on choosing the other direction is, it's remarkable. It's remarkable that we can make those changes and continue to work on them and make those second thoughts come sooner and sooner, the harder we work on them.
Yeah, and it's how you said, like, even when you're talking about living like a certain lifestyle, if it's whether it be criminal, like being incarcerated, again, like that's seconds. There's probably like an 8-second space, a
Yeah.
window for you to make whatever decision you're in. Like,
Right.
who are you going to be in this moment?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's really helped is I've defined who I want to be. Like, I know who I want to be. When I was younger, I wasn't living with any type of goals, no short-term goals, no long-term goals. I had zero care about my own self-worth and being, let alone anybody else's. So nothing mattered. Like, everything was just spontaneous and on the moment. And
it's exactly what you said. It's living for the moment with no care in the world what happens after that moment. It's like, it's a scary way to live.
And they say insanity, like I've always heard they say, insanity is repeating the same thing over and over and expecting. Now, I must have been extra insane because a lot of times I knew the result.
Yeah.
Like, I knew, I just didn't care. There was no concern. And maybe it links back to that. Any attention is good attention. But
yeah, for sure. I think that's the same for a lot of, I know for sure for a lot of addicts. Like, we know what, like, deep down, we're never thinking this is gonna end up any different. We know how we're gonna end up. You know, after a good run, like, we know how we're gonna feel. We know how sick we're gonna be. We know it's that we don't give a fuck anymore. And, you know, it's that's a really, really scary way to live with, like, you know, I don't care enough about myself to, you know, my self-worth is so low that I know making this next decision is going to fuck me over, and I'm still going to take that.
But who cares?
Who cares? Yeah.
You know, people have always told me that. I know I'm that. You know, all the evidence in my life shows me that. It's man, that's an ugly circle, man. I remember it. You know.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not too far removed from it. It's granted, it's been some years, but I can still look at people today and say, wow.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, or I could be though. I'm one bad decision away from being in the worst shape on the in prison.
I mean, and I think that's a really important point to make, that, like, you know, even when we are in recovery and, you know, out of the lives that we were living for so long, and now, you know, thriving in recovery and in a life that's, like, you know, better than our wildest dreams, that we're truly just we're an arm's length away from the next drink or drug. We're an arm's length away from the next person to harm, from, you know, anything that could land us back to where we came from, where we don't want to go back to. And we're always just one bad decision or one bad thought away from that.
And one of the greatest, like, I got two like amazing examples of that. Is one, you know, my mom, congratulations to my mom. She just celebrated 8 years being clean and sober.
Wow.
She's a matriarch of our family. She's one of the most
amazing
I know. Well, years ago in her addiction, I remember she had a relapse, and within a week, everything's gone.
Yeah.
Like a whole life is gone. And that takes a week. You know, I just finished doing 29 years in prison. It took me 3 seconds to do that.
Yeah.
A 3-second, one decision that took me 3 seconds to execute a decision that I made cost me 29 years. Yeah. And that could be anybody. You could see that yellow light that's been on for 3 seconds, but hit that gas, and now you're in the middle of an intersection. Just decisions are huge.
Yeah.
They're huge, man.
That's so true. And, you know, like you said, I mean, you did 29 years from a split-second decision that you made. Yeah, it took, and you know, that's what 2/3 of your life.
Yeah.
Has been, you know, you've been removed from the rest of society for like a decision that was made so quickly. And you know, you know, we talked about this a little bit off air. Like, I don't like to spend a lot of time on the negative stuff, and this is all about, like, the positive change, but this is part of your story, right? Like, I'll say to anybody watching or listening, you know, I would encourage you to check out some of Brian's other podcasts and appearances on shows, because, you know, you go into great detail about your story, and it's really quite powerful and you know, inspirational, and the way you deliver it is phenomenal. So, you know, for anybody who wants to know, like, the details, you know, you can go check out his other stuff, but, like, maybe you can just kind of highlight what happened, where you went, and we could talk about the changes that happened as a result.
So, you know, there became a point at 16 years old that I was entrenched in just this criminal and gang behavior, and my drug addiction had evolved. You know, I was using meth, and I'm absent of goals, and I'm a very, very unhappy person at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a party one night, and at that party, a big fight broke out, between opposing gangs, mine and another one. And sadly, a man lost his life. He was stabbed, and I'm responsible for that. At the time, there was no remorse for it. I wasn't a good person. My heart, my emotions, everything was just froze. There wasn't anything there.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really felt the magnitude of what I had done. I'm just going through the system. This is what it's supposed to be. I'm emulating other people that I see. And so I ended up getting 20 to life. I took my case to trial. I ended up getting 20 to life. They waited till I was 18 years old, and I was transferred to prison.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's looking back, it seems like a quick process, but this is about 2 years.
Right.
And my first, it's so scary, because I remember my grandmother said, like, the change happened in you so fast. When I came home, I'm looking at family pictures, and like, I'm in a basketball league, and then the pictures just stop, and I'm wearing nothing but blue and the rest of the picture.
Right.
It just, that road happens so fast. And as you learn, in recovery, like, it's such a slippery slope, and you always want that next high, that next level, that next thing. Like, it's never enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's never enough. Like, I was never satisfied. Like, I was like a bottomless pit that I would just stuff anything in just to fill that hole and not deal with anything, which I didn't even know I had anything to deal with yet. I hadn't even acknowledged that. Like, nobody had ever told me that.
Yeah.
And I definitely wasn't going to ask for any help. So, I came into prison at 18, and my role models are these older guys. And again, like, I'm trying to emulate them and do and copy them and do everything they do.
Right.
Which is, use drugs and run around the yard and get involved in all the nonsense in there. And I go head into that.
Yeah.
Nothing had changed with me at that point. Like, I was still that very same person.
Well, you're that same person, and you're put now in a, you're in surroundings where it's, you're I would think, like, it's time to prove yourself. And if you haven't looked at any of the things that have gone on in your life and that have brought you to that place, well, like, I'm here now, so who gives a fuck anyways, right? Like,
yeah. And I want to make clear, like, I understand, like, I'm fully responsible for my life and my decisions.
Yes.
And when I came in at that time, like, there was no such thing as like a self-help. Like, there was nowhere to turn. Like, there was no opportunity to learn anything. Like, there were really no other options.
Inside, there was no program for you at that time or anything like that you could even.
Zero. Yeah. This is like 95, 96. It was just, and the scariest part, which is horrible for society, is like, men are going in there. There's no program. So you're being educated as a criminal. You turn to the only place you can.
Right.
Because, California prison system, it's segregated by gangs and racial lines and politics.
Yeah.
And it's, these people are coming back out into society. So would you rather have somebody, like, with the opportunity? Like, I was dying to learn about myself at that point, but I didn't know where to turn it. And change scared the hell out of me.
Right.
Still does.
Absolutely.
It still does, in this new world for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I continuously just got in trouble in there.
Yeah.
For a lot of years, I was transferred in different prisons, and I always telling myself, like I'm built like this, like I can handle this, and never giving a second thought to the fact that, like, I'm dragging my family along with me throughout this entire journey. Like, they're driving hundreds and hundreds of miles to come visit me. I'm subjecting them to these visiting rooms and sometimes getting searched.
Right.
I was a fantastic addict, so selfish, like blaming everybody, like poor me, zero responsibility. And I was stuck in that for many years.
Right. I mean, that's what an addict is, right? Selfish, self-centered, dishonest, and we don't see that. We have such blinders on to what we're doing to the rest of the people around us. We think, oh, I'm just hurting myself. I'm putting myself through this. And, when you come out of that and realize the scope of the destruction and chaos that we cause, one person, the scope of the the chaos that the tornado that we create around us
we
is
call it the ripple effect,
massive.
the way I like it.
Yeah. And we're hurting people that we don't even know we're hurting, and we have zero comprehension, zero. And even if we do comprehend it, we don't comprehend it far enough to care enough to change. And when you get out of that cycle and you actually have a look at, the damage done, it's really quite powerful. And, there's obviously a lot of bridges to mend and a lot of amends to be made. And some of them are lifelong amends that we're making. Right. But it really helps us see, I think, in recovery. And if we're following some kind of recovery program, there's always a component in there that allows us to see our part in the destruction and chaos that we've caused, and the fact that it all revolved around us and it was all our fault. And we need to stop pointing the finger, right? Because we've been blaming the rest of the world for our problem.
When I realized that, like, my whole life I've been at war with the world and everybody around me, I came to realize that the war was going on the whole time inside my own head.
Yeah.
That was not only a devastating moment for me, but it was a liberating moment.
Yeah.
Like, damn, it's been me this whole time. Yeah, granted, things have happened to me that were unfair, that I didn't deserve, but
right.
I got to own my sense of responsibility and take responsibility for my side of the yard,
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely. And that's all we can do as people in recovery, right? That's our job, is to clean up our side of the street and pass the message along to the next person suffering, right? Those are our only two jobs, I think, and people that have found recovery and a new life.
Yeah. And I even remember, I'm like probably in the middle of my prison sentence at this time. And, I'm using and I'm involved in all kind of stuff. And I remember either my mom told me or she wrote me a letter, but I remember it stuck with me. Even in the midst of the addiction and the chaos, she said, "You're not a bad person trying to get good. You're a sick person trying to get well." And that's sort of like, okay, like, there's a way out. I don't know. That really resonated with me, because I've always been I'm a talkative in school. I'm a troublemaker. I'm a class clown. I'm a juvenile delinquent. I'm tried as an adult. I'm a lifer. Like, I'm all these like negative things. And I don't know, that one always stuck to me. I didn't, maybe that was a moment of clarity that I missed.
Yeah. I think that's important, because, we've been told for our, majority of our lives that we were bad, that we were, that we were doing the wrong things, that we're always being punished for things. So we have this idea that we're a bad person, but we're not bad people. We're good people that are making terrible decisions over and over again. And I mean, it's really quite similar to that. Like, you're just a sick person that needs to get well, but there is a solution. Right. And that message sends that message that, a sick person can get well. So if I'm a sick person, not a bad person, I'm a sick person, and there's a solution and a way for me to become unsick.
Yeah. Cause if you're bad, it's just, there's no like redemptive value to you. You're just bad.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you're sick, like, okay, there's medicine, or there's different things you could do to get somebody better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can identify with sick, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was huge. That was huge for me, that moment right there.
Yeah. Your mother said that. Had she found recovery at that point, or was she?
Yeah, she had gotten clean. I feel so today, like, it still weighs really heavy on me. She had some years clean. When I got arrested for this, she relapsed that night.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And she was out there for like a decade plus, man.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
A decade plus. But like I said, the story ends amazing. Like, we're in recovery together. We support each other. Like, we have the most amazing conversations. Like, she's so full of like endless wisdom, and it's my relationship with my mother is so beautiful.
That's amazing. That's so important. Yeah.
I cherish her.
I guess it's almost a message of, a message of hope that she gives you.
Well, my grandma used to call them God winks.
Okay. Yeah.
just something like that slips through the darkness, because a lot of stuff wasn't reaching me, but that one slipped through the darkness, and it tagged me.
Yeah, cool. So from that moment when you get the sort of God wink there, is that enough to incite some sort of change for you?
I mean, it planted a seed. I didn't take like any concrete actions, but it was like sort of like a reminder of like, come on, Brian, like this isn't you. Like you're better than this. Like I knew I was better than this.
Right.
But like so many other times, it just plunged me deeper into my addiction. Like, you know, somebody holds up that mirror to you, and I'm out of there. You know, I have to deal with it. You know.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have that, where we're told, you know, there's hope, and we think, yeah, like, okay, there's hope. The light bulb goes on for a split second, and then we go back to our thinking. You know, it's like we know that it's there, but it's not quite within our grasp, we think, right?
And especially when, you know, not only am I serving a life sentence in a prison, like there's so many like self-constructed prison cells that I've like built around myself.
Yeah.
I just like it's my responsibility. Like I had dug a hole deep. Like I was just in such a dark place for so many years, you know.
Right.
I literally I didn't envision any way out of there.
Yeah, it's a scary place to live. You know, when you're in that hole that you've dug yourself, or ourselves. Well, you know, we all do it. You know, recovery seems so, it almost doesn't sound real, you know, and the possibility of change doesn't feel real, because we don't know any different. We don't know at that point, like, how do we, okay, there's these people telling us that we can change our lives, that we can live differently, that we can be a good person and not be an addict, not be a criminal, not be whatever we are that we don't like about ourselves. But it seems we're so far removed from that possibility that we don't believe in ourselves enough to be able to, you know, reach out and actually grab that hand that might be offering us help. Or, you know, we don't have the self-will to change, and we're so programmed, right? We're so programmed to be who we are at that point. We don't think that there's any possibility of ever becoming anyone different. Yeah. And then you feel almost like you know, here's these people telling me they're, you know, I can change, I can get well, I don't have to be this sick person anymore. But, you know, for me, it always made me feel like a failure, because I didn't have my ego and my pride were standing in the way of reaching out for help and actually admitting I have a problem to another human being, and really saying, I don't know how to run my own life.
Yeah. And at this stage too, the only like positive, because like I said, and I'm moving all the way up to maybe like 2006, 7, 8, around this time. Like this is throughout my whole incarceration. Like there were no positive messages coming to me outside of my family. Even with my family, it was almost like at a point of like surrender. Like they loved me regardless, but like he's got life. Like it's, you know,
right.
The time for a positive message. He's like, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's dead. Nobody's going home. So it's all about, at this stage, survive, make it through the day. Like do what you got to do to survive in there, because we're seeing in the newspapers and hearing the news about what's going on inside of there, you know, and they'll come to visit, and the lockdowns will happen because somebody, you know, was murdered or something. So it's definitely not a place where like it's hopeless.
So take me to the point where the hopelessness is somewhat alleviated, and you see, you know, that little that piece of hope, or the thing to drive the change for you.
It's like a series of just miracles, whatever you want to call it, just began occurring. And it started, unfortunately, after my biggest fear in life. The worst thing that could ever happen to me in my life was losing my grandmother.
Yeah.
When my mom came to visit me, I'm in solitary confinement at this time. I'm in the security housing unit. I'm in a cell by myself. I've gotten myself in a fair amount of trouble as a result of my addiction. So she told me that like my grandmother had passed away, and I went back to my cell that day, and I just hit the ground, man. Like I was completely bankrupt. I was completely broken, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Like I had no idea, I've shared before, like I was ready to kill myself. Like
Yeah.
I had planned out the way I was going to go. Like I just couldn't do it.
Right. Right.
But in a moment of just utter desperation, like completely just broken, I prayed. I didn't know what else to do. There was nobody else. I couldn't tell the people around me because that's crazy. Like you don't talk about stuff. You just suck it up and you stay quiet and
Yep.
And the people around me probably didn't have my best interest at heart. Everybody has their own agenda. So I said a prayer and it turned into deciding to want to live my life in a way that honored my grandmother because she raised me well. She always believed in me. Her love was unconditional.
Right.
And that began a process of okay, I'm going to do this. And I began reading like the big blue book of Narcotics Anonymous. I began watching different TV shows. I began small things, listening to different music.
Okay.
I'm completely like the desire to change doesn't always equate to changing. Like I was a tangled mess. My thought process was messed up, but I'm a broken human being at this part, at this time. And I just want to be somebody else. Like I'm done. And it's so funny because when I wanted to stop being Brian James, I would have done anything to not be him. And now I want to be Brian James. I would do anything. Any kind of, I was reading Brene Brown books and like all kinds of stuff, but just trying to discover myself. And a law passed called Senate Bill 260, which basically says if you're 18 years or younger and you committed a crime such as the one I committed or a serious violent crime, you will have the possibility of parole because science proves that your brain is not fully formed by 25. You're not entirely responsible for decision making, and there's a lot to it. It was science based. So now they're saying I have an opportunity to go home. I like through my behavior, but I'm in so much trouble still. Like I'm still, but it's hope. For the first time in my life, there was hope at the end. But I'm still in solitary confinement and I'm not getting out. So the opportunity came up through peaceful hunger strikes and things like that. I got out of solitary confinement. So now I'm back on the general population yard.
Yeah.
Where because of that SB 260 laws, now they have Narcotics Anonymous. They have Criminal Gang Members Anonymous, Emotional Intelligence, Healing Dialogue and Action, Inside Out Riders, like these groups that are and people coming in from the streets. The most amazing people who like genuinely care about you.
Yeah.
And this is a revolution happening like within the California prison system. Things are really changing. And like I said, I'm desperate. So I'm diving into, I'm signing up for everything. My whole day, I'd wake up in the morning, spend all day in groups. I had these little composition books I was filling up with notes. And I really wanted to be a better person and understand myself. And in the process is when I signed up for the Pawsitive Change program, that dog program that ultimately just rocked my world. And changed my life and changed my entire life.
Yeah. Well, talk to me a little bit about that, because this is a part of your story that I think is amazing and so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that the dogs, I was in Corcoran State Prison at the time, and easily the most treacherous prison in California.
Yeah.
It was a danger zone. And for somebody like me, who's like trying to change my life, like that was, walking around on eggshells,
I bet. Yeah.
And I still want to like, I want to be that tough guy that I always was, but I want to be that guy that changed. So like, I'm kind of like, I guess they call it playing the fence a little, like, but I'm trying, like constantly trying to stay out of situations, trying to stay away from certain things. So I come in and it says Pawsitive Change dog program. And like, I'm open for it. Like, it's not going to happen, but I'm going to sign up for it. Why not?
Okay.
I'm signing up for everything. I'm full of hope and all kinds of stuff. So Zach Scow came on the yard like a month later with that pit bull that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And, like I couldn't stop thinking about it, man. Every night I would just like, wow, like it was just an amazing feeling, And so they came and interviewed me. it was Lisa Porter and Leah Marquez, just amazing dog trainers. Like they came to,
Okay.
they came to interview me for the Positive Change program and told me that I got accepted. And
Amazing.
3 weeks later, all the trainers came in and they talked to us, and we spent time with them. And the following week, they brought us our dog. And I remember all 7 dogs came in. I remember there was one dog. It was like a little puppy, a little like German Shepherd mix named Flynn. I was like, dang, I hope I get Flynn. Everybody liked Flynn. He was crazy, like crazy little boy or something, you know? And they assigned me to Flynn, and I was so happy. Like it was just a joy, like that inside I just had never known. It was completely foreign to me, completely foreign to me. And they assigned another. As I've shared before, it's the genius part of the program. They get 2 polar opposites, people, and they assign you together to get a dog. And not only do they do that, they study your personality and try to assign a dog that will complement you.
Okay.
So if they notice, hey, this guy's extra quiet, he's an introvert and all that, they'll get the biggest, loudest, craziest dog.
Yeah.
So there's so much thought and compassion and like that goes into this, you know?
Yeah.
So I started, I began every Wednesday, the trainers would come in and give us our assignments and show us training techniques. Yeah. We have to journal about it, write down our goals, and in the process, so much stuff. Like I benefited emotionally, mentally, spiritually, like through these dogs.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we were talking a little bit off air earlier, and, you know, you talked about like the first, you hadn't touched a dog, you hadn't pet a dog in, you know, around 25 years at that point. And, you know, here you are getting this unconditional love from a dog, and now partnered up with somebody who you would otherwise not have even crossed paths unless maybe in a negative way, but not been paired up for anything. Right. And now, you know, you're building a bond with this person who's a polar opposite of you through this dog that is showing like absolute unconditional love, compassion, and like, you know, kind of filling all those voids that you had been looking for years. Right.
Yeah. That's like a lot of times I think that part doesn't get highlighted when they're talking about like the Positive Change program. Like, you know, it's what the dogs obviously is the focal point of it in the training and all that, but what goes on behind the background, like I said, in the most brutal of environments, there was about 20 of us. Yeah. Across like geographical, ethnic, all boundaries you can imagine. Like we came together like as the Positive Change tribe. And like these are people that had never even considered the idea of change. But when a dog's around, it's just it softens the mood. It makes things easier. Yeah. Didante Farmer, who I trained one of my dogs with, you know, like I've shared before, there would have been no circumstances for me to ever interact with him or him interact with me. Yeah. This guy was a blood from Compton. Right. There's no way, but we came together and we started working on this dog together, and in the process got to know each other and came to realize like, damn, we're a lot alike. Yeah. A lot more in common than you would have guessed. Right. And I like you a lot better than I do, you know, most people from, you know, my car, you know, my home. Like I remember, I don't know if I told him, but I remember thinking one time, if I had 2 Laker tickets right now and I could go to a game, like I'm going to take Didante over anybody in the entire yard, you know? Yeah, man. That's amazing. And you're still working with him today, right? Yeah. So he got out about a year and a half before me. Yeah. And just to show the level of drive, like, you know, we work at LA Canines together. He was in like a transitional housing, would not allow him to have a car or anything like that. He rode his bicycle 3 hours every morning from Long Beach to Culver City just to get to work at that place. Wow. Yeah. That's something. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. So, that's pretty powerful. Yeah. And we stayed in contact. So he got me that job. Like he put me on the phone with Colleen Steckloff, who's the GOAT when it comes to dog training. Like there is no better. Yeah. And her and her husband were amazing and said, yeah, like we have a job here for you. Like we believe in you and we're ready for you. And because of these people, like I came home and like I'm working at my dream job.
Yeah.
With dogs. I get to observe like the other trainers there and pick up knowledge and techniques.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. When you know that you're coming home after this many years, and to know that now you've got a direction in life, you've got your recovery, you've got the dogs that is your focus, and you've got a skill and a drive for training these dogs and being around these dogs. You actually have, I mean, I would imagine that after that much time, like, I have something to come out for. You know, I I'm not just coming out to go repeat the same mistakes or do, you've built a life emotionally, physically, spiritually, that you've got now a direction to go with your life, and, to get out with all of those tools kind of in your toolbox now.
Yeah.
That is really quite remarkable. And that's like the real reform. You know what I mean? Like, you're a different person, and you're coming out to now work with, your passion. Like, there are so many people, so much of the population does a job every single day that they hate, and you get to come out after, 2/3 of your life gone from you. You get to come out and actually work in your passion field. Like, that is amazing.
Yeah. And that's why I make it, I don't ever say I have to go to work. Like I get to go to work.
Yeah.
And
Man.
I'm at a place in life right now where like, I'm trying to be grateful for everything, because all I have to do is look back, like not too far.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I was living in a box, and like, I'm out here because of an act of mercy from the parole board who paroled me. Like, I don't feel, because of my past, I'm not deserving of anything. Like, I feel like I'm driven every day. I have to wake up and earn my place in this world.
Yeah. We kind of talked about this a little bit before. I mean, when you have perspective like that, you get to wake up every morning. Like, you get to wake up every morning.
Yeah.
And have that freedom, and have, you have things to be grateful for, instead of, waking up. I mean, I can remember waking up pissed off that I woke up. I'm pissed that I even woke up today. I wish I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And, to have that perspective, and look where I was, and look where I am today, and look what I have in my life, and how full of love, your life is now, with, your family, your fiance, your work, the relationship with yourself, your recovery, all of that. It's like, that's a life beyond our wildest dreams. I would,
No, especially someone like me. Like, I'm not even supposed to be free right now, let alone even alive.
Yeah.
Like, I played with life so much.
Mm-hmm.
I played with life so much to where, I can feel nothing but gratitude. And it's a lot easier said than done. Like, I've had some hard days out here, man. Like, where like it's not all easy at all. Like, it's difficult. Like, I feel like I'm a new person in a new world. Not only am I, in my freedom and all that, in my recovery. Last time I was out here, I was 16. So that's my reference point for being out here. Like, I was telling my sister the other day, I always get anxiety walking into like a liquor store. And I don't know. I feel like every experience that I've had with a liquor store is always in the movies. Because I've been in a box for 20 years, and every liquor store, in the movies, the slow motion robbery, and like, so when I walk in there, I don't know. That's like my every experience is by way of a movie.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing, because I don't know why my anxiety level when I go to get my high voltage coffee in the morning always spikes. When I walk in there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was talking to my wife about this before we jumped on the call, and I was saying, because for me, when I was a teenager, like, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the internet. Like, we had pagers, we had payphones, we had, we didn't, the cars looked different. We had, everything in life is completely changed so much in 30 years.
Yeah.
And, to to have such limited access to all that and then come out into this whole new world that we all of a sudden, I mean, you're thrust into this world that you have to learn all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's the world is so much different than it was there, when I was 17.
Yeah.
And when you were 17, every day learning something new that's been almost like a culture shock.
Yeah,
right?
I joined a gym the other day, and the process to join the gym, like, oh my God, like they were asking for so many questions that I had I had to show my card and my routing information and this and that. Like I was completely lost. I wanted to just grab all my stuff and turn around and walk out. Like, but, and that's one thing too that I was thinking about after the guy behind the counter. Like this dude was patient. He was great. Like I told him, look, man, I'm kind of new to this, man. Like I'm freshly out. Like I'm just trying to. He goes, so he was great with me. But that's one thing that I do want to say. I hear a lot about the world being ugly and negative. Like my overwhelming experiences that I've been out have been like amazing. Like I've met people that have shown me kindness, that have been patient with me. It's been pretty like way more good than bad.
Yeah, I think that's important. And, I think to that point as well, I will say that when I'm leading with kindness and compassion, I'm always kind, compassionate people are always put in my path. And when I'm leading with anything but those two things, anger, resentment, frustration, whatever, I'm met with the exact same emotion. So I think there's a lot there to that, right? Like we're carrying ourselves with all these new tools and this compassion for other people and this new life that we've learned about. And I think that not to sound too hippie, but like it almost radiates from us, from people that have done the work and have really, changed, and they're truly living in that change. They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there is something I can remember, my first couple of years getting clean. Yeah, it was hell, it was torture, but I dove deep into it because that's the only way I knew how to get into something is like head first. I remember people coming across people and they said, what are you doing? I didn't say a word to them. And they said, what are you doing differently? What is like, are you at the gym? What is it different? And I said, no, I've changed my life. And they're like, I hate, I don't know how to say this properly, but there's an aura or there's a something about you that is so different. And they said, it's almost palpable. You can feel it, the change.
Yeah.
And these are people that have known me through my addiction and now, in my recovery. And I think that change attracts like-minded people. And I think that when we're living in that truth, we're going to come across people that are going to reciprocate that kindness, compassion, and care for us that we are giving to others now.
Yeah. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I had got when I was leaving, it's from this OG dude, man. He had life without parole. He'd been in prison probably like 42 years at that point. And he said, he'd known me since a teenager in prison.
Right.
And he goes, I've observed you like throughout life. And I've seen these last 5 years, like, I'm so proud of like who you've become.
Yeah.
And he goes, when you get out there, stand on your values. Like first he asked me, what do you value? I was like, family and honesty. And like, I want to be a good man. He said, stand on that. That's your square.
Yeah.
So when you get out there, stand on your square. No matter what happens, the circumstances, people, what somebody says, don't step off your square.
Yeah.
Maintain yourself. So it's always in my head, stay on your square.
I love
stay
that.
on my square. Yeah. Like when I'm out here, somebody could say something wild to me that would, trigger me. That does trigger me, but stand on your square, Brian. Stand on your square.
Yeah.
Again, easier said than done, but that was a great piece of advice that's like really helped me out a lot out here.
For sure. And yeah, easier said than done, but not impossible at all.
Absolutely.
Like nothing that's good for us is easy. It's all hard. It's all hard work, but the payoff is worth it, right? That's what we do it for, is, the feeling we get back from those hard changes that we've had to make and those hard the hard look at our past, and the finding compassion for the person that we were and the things that we did and the people that we've harmed, and the living with that stuff, and you know, and that's a daily thing, right? Like we have to look at our past and, with honest, compassionate, kind eyes, and say, and to give gratitude for who we are today and the things that we have been through. And to, a lot, I talked a little bit about, like a living amends, right? Like there's people that we can't make amends to. But what we can do is make living amends. And that means always choosing that right next move that we need to make in life to honor the people that aren't here today, or that we aren't able to properly make that amends to, right?
Yeah. I remember I made that decision to try to live in a way that honors my grandmother.
Yeah.
And also, combined with that, equally important in my life and mine is honoring the victim, the man who lost his life, whose story is my story and my story is his story forever. Like, I don't want that to be in vain. Like,
yeah,
I want something good to come out of that.
Right.
And it's like a mandate in me. Like, I feel it. Like, this is not a task. It's something I know I have to do, and it's something like I'm very gladly. Like I said, it keeps me humble, and it keeps me grateful.
For sure, and connected, right? Like that's, and you need to stay connected to that stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's so powerful, man. And I want to just tell you how much. Well, first of all, how proud of you I am for everything that you do and continue to do.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure to get to know you over the last few months, and either through messaging on the internet or watching your interviews, and now actually speaking face to face. Your story is quite remarkable, and I am absolutely honored to have this conversation with you. And I know that so many people will get so much from this, and that you are truly like a messenger of hope.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hard to accept, but I will carry that.
Man.
That. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
so much.
I really appreciate everything that you have to offer, and and I want to of course I want to stay connected with you, and what are you doing today for your, I mean, we talked a little bit about what you do every day for your to maintain your recovery, and what's next for you, do you think? And are you do you have plans with with your career? I know you're engaged now, right?
Yeah.
So do you have a sort of what's next for Brian?
So the greatest, I got a message from Scott Budnick about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, asking, would you be willing to commit to going into juvenile hall 2 Saturdays a month? Wow. And Sylmar Juvenile Hall, like, I've been to every single unit.
Yeah.
Like, I know the place inside out, and that was literally like a dream come true to walk in there. So we're in the process. Me and some other people are going to go in there and mentor the young men, talk to the young men.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's like one of the greatest honors that I could ever have, especially in a place like that I'm so familiar with and such a connection to me. So I'm going to be doing that. Me and Dante, who I spoke about earlier, we're working on creating our own podcast right now.
Amazing.
Just to highlight, issues and conversations, and hopefully, bring change to the world. And at the end of the day, it's always trying to make my life, give it reason, give it purpose.
Right.
I don't believe I went through all I've done. I don't believe I've done all I've done just for nothing. So if in any way I can turn around, and even if it's one person, and say, like, no matter what it is, like heroin addiction, you're struggling with gangs, you're struggling with suicide, I can say, like, I've been there.
Yeah.
I was there, like, for a long time, stuck, but check me out now. Like, there's another side to that.
Yeah.
And I'll rock with you all the way there. Like, I'm not just going to sit back and tell you, like, I'll ride with you on that. Like, we'll get you there.
Right. So important. That is like that's what it's about right there. Right. The giving back piece is so huge. And, I do a lot of that up here where I'm at. you know, I speak in the detention centers and prisons up here, and it's like there is no better place for me to give back, because that's where I've spoken at so many different places, told my story at so many different places, but like doing it in the corrections, in corrections, is like just the fact, and you touched a little bit about this, that just the fact that somebody will come in from the outside for, you know, for free and volunteer their time to spend an hour, you know, with the guys, with the young people, or the guys that are incarcerated, the respect and the thankfulness that I
Yeah.
get, you know what I mean? And the impact, I feel like that's where I can
Huge,
make the biggest impact.
huge impact.
And it's not just for me, like, you know, I've connected with guys on their release dates and stuff like that, and, you know, gotten with them, hey, let's go to a meeting, let's go for coffee, let's do this, let's sign up for the gym, let's do some boxing, you know, and some of them, they've become some of my, you know, closest friends. And I met them just talking, just because that's where I felt I could make the most impact and give back. And they need to hear, I believe that especially the young people in the juvenile detentions centers, they need to hear from people like you. They need to hear your story. And like you said, to be able to, I'm not just in there telling my story and I'm going to walk out and, you know, enjoy my life.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm coming back in. I'll be back next week, and let's link up when you're released. Let's get active. Let's go do some stuff. Let's make some change. Let's keep the momentum going. Right? It's not, and I think that's the important part.
It's huge, like that front to back support. Like, I'm here to tell you about my life change, and like, here's my number.
Yeah.
Like, let's link up. From someone who sat in those seats, like, there's it's a huge impact, man. Because a lot of times you're probably the first and only person who's ever actually genuinely cared about a lot of these people that you're talking to.
And it's somebody who's been, you know, been there, been through the same things, and sat with the same emotional torture.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the thing that I've really found is that a lot of the guys that go into the detention centers up where I'm at, they're old timer AA or NA guys, and they're in there with their gray hair, and like, hey, when I can grow my hair, it's gray too. But I mean, they don't see eye to eye with them. That looks like some old grandfather coming in, telling their war stories, and, you know, and then they're gone, and they want to. And then when I go in there, it's different, and they always tell me that they're like, we don't come to the meetings that you're not running, because like we want to hear from you, and like there's a connection there that's lost with the old timers, and, you know, I think that's what we need a lot more of.
I think just the fact of you being in there, like the first time I ever saw a lifer like come into prison, like you can never imagine a lifer like in civilian clothing, like so it gives you a hope. Like a lot of times you can listen to stuff and read books, but if you see like a Chris walk in, if you see a Brian walk in, like, okay, now you can connect a face, you can. It just touches deeper, I think.
It does. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I'm stoked for you and the people that get to hear your message and that you get to be a part of their, you know, their life, hopefully life change and recovery. And I know that there's going to be, you know, at least one, probably multiple people that are going to hear your story and grab onto it. And that's, as I said, that messenger of hope for the people that truly need it, that truly have been searching for love and acceptance in all the wrong ways. Like we did. Right. And yeah, man, I'm beyond grateful. And, you know, before we wrap up, I usually like to ask, you know, if people want to reach out to you, want to follow you, want to learn more about your story, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, well, I mean, really, the only platform I'm on is Instagram and Free Bliss, FREEBLISS1. And I love to talk to people about recovery. I met a lot of amazing people and from all over the world, you know, different countries. And
man, that's the beauty of the internet, right? Like, when it's used for the right things like that, I mean, we can connect with people all over the world that are just like us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'll be sure to link all that in the show notes so people can easily access your Instagram. And then when you get your podcast up and started, let me know, and I'll put that in the show notes as well, so people
Thank you very much.
can link to that. But again, man, deepest gratitude for your time, your story, your life, and just, you know, sharing so openly and honestly, and being so vulnerable and powerful in your message everywhere you go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris.